speech, and it's going to be called Practice, Practice, Practice. It's speech number 2 out of the Competent Communicators Manual, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Leroy was born in Hayward, California. He attended grade school, junior high, and the first half of his high school education down in Vancouver, Washington. He then completed his high school education at Oak Harbor High School on Whidbey Island. From there, he went to U.S. Army training at Fort Ord and Fort Wood in Missouri. He later attended the University of Washington, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. He had his own private investigations company called Investigators Anywhere. He used whatever it took to track down what he was looking for. Whether it be a plane, a car, an automobile, a snowmobile, or a motorcycle, even a raft. He's also been a stockbroker and a securities trader, a sales trainer, a commercial pilot, and a flight instructor in Alaska. Also a teamster. He's now a real estate broker in Kirtland. He's been around. You can tell by that gray hair. He's been to over 45 countries. Please welcome Leroy Cook.
Toastmaster, full Toastmasters, yes. I'm thankful to be able to be here to speak to you. And I appreciate you giving the grace of being 15-20 minutes late. Given the situation out there, I'm glad I got anywhere. I spent the whole morning, I probably drove 75 miles and never left Kirtland because I was trying to take a client and get some things done and nothing was open. So, anyway, I'm thankful. When the enemy's sword descends, to know what to do is to die, but to act is to live. In Toastmasters, the sword is poised whenever we stand up in front of a group. Just like in our everyday life when we do things that are difficult but count on our knowing what's going and doing the right thing, the sword is poised all the time if we have to think too much instead of do what needs to be done. I and 4 of my best friends are alive today because of a flight instructor, a check pilot by the name of Tommy Olson, who taught me how to move from knowing to acting without even knowing. Well, in learning to fly, it's like learning to speak. You have to learn new things, and you have to unlearn some of the things you already knew, and then you have to practice, practice, practice. Flying involves learning a lot of theory and then taking a written test so you can pass the test. And it involves learning how to accomplish a lot of flight maneuvers that you take a test on with a check pilot that goes up and has you do them, and if you do them well enough, he gives you a license. Well, one of the maneuvers you do is to recover from stalls. A stall is what happens when an airplane stops flying and starts falling. Now that's a little more serious than when your car stalls. Because in your car, the controls all still do the same thing after it's stalled. But when an airplane stalls, especially a severe stall like a departure stall, the controls don't do the same thing when it's falling as they did when it was flying. They do totally different things. And it gets you in a lot of trouble to try and use them the way you were using them when it was flying. I messed up one of the maneuvers in my flight check for my private license. 720 turn, you're supposed to not gain or lose more than 50 feet while you're going a steep turn in a circle. I could not hold altitude, and I thought it was the wind or the updrafts or whatever. Finally, Tommy, he said, "Let me show you." He took the controls, didn't lose or add more than 10 feet. Went around twice, you know, I've had it. And he just said, "Let's go back." I thought I'd flunk my test. I was going to have to go through all this stuff again. What a humiliation to flunk your flying test. We landed back at the airstrip. We got out of the airplane. He didn't say a word. We walked across the gravel over to the hangar where his office was. He still didn't say anything. Opened the door and he went in and he still didn't say anything. And I'm standing there talking to myself. A minute later he opened the door. He came out. He handed me my license and he said, it's a license to learn. I took him seriously because I really felt strongly about thinking I failed. And when he handed it to me and said it's a license to learn, I believed him. And I kept practicing. And I kept taking instructions. And I kept building hours. And when I had enough hours, I took another check ride. And I got my commercial rating. Didn't have the reason for it, but it's just what you do when you're learning. So then I kept practicing, and I kept taking instructions, and I took another check ride and I became an instructor. Well, once you're an instructor, you get to practice and somebody else pays for it. So I did a lot of flying, I did a lot of stalls, and I did a lot of departure stalls. We usually do departure stalls, especially in any kind of stall, at least 4,000 feet. So there's some time to think and do what you're supposed to before that big bang. Well, one day, a couple, 3 years after I'd gotten all these ratings, I was given a check ride to one of the Alaskan pilots in the morning in a float plane, souped up 170 Cessna. It really performed well, and I was impressed. And we got that out of the way, and later that day, some of my friends said, let's fly over to Old John Lake and let's have a picnic. Okay, so we all got in the airplane, and I taxied out, and I gave it power, and I took off just like I had done earlier that morning, but I failed to consider that when air warms up, it's less dense, and airplane stalls at lower speed. We took off, and as we were climbing merrily along, suddenly we were totally sideways, falling straight down.
Oh, wow.
It's impossible to consciously react and recover from a departure stall at 200 feet. Impossible. However, without waiting for my mind to do anything, my body, my muscles, my nerves took over and slammed the elevators full down, slammed the rudders full right, slammed the ailerons to neutral. We hit the water in a perfectly level attitude with the nose just high enough folks didn't dig in and flip us. I won't even tell you the rest of the story, but we lived. I was all done flying that day when we got it on the ground. I understand the value now of practice, practice, practice. Thank you, Tommy.
Wow. Thanks so much, Leroy. Let's have another minute in between